Okay, everyone, let's get started. Welcome tonight to our forum, our candidates forum for the Lake County Office of Education, or the Lake County Superintendent of Schools, excuse me. My name is Elizabeth Larson, and I'm the moderator tonight. I'm with Lake County News. We're very pleased to welcome our two candidates for this year's race. We have with us Brock Falkenberg and Pat Iacino. Thank you both for being here tonight in a very busy campaign season. And thanks to all of you. We've got a great crowd here tonight. We've had a lot of great questions that are continuing to come in and a lot of interest in this race. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move right into it because we want to hear from both of them and hear about their thoughts and plans for being, helping lead Lake County's education. I want to also acknowledge that the Lake County Economic Development Corp and the Lake County Bar Association have partnered with Lake County News in this year's series of forums, candidates forums. And we'll be doing some more this election season, and I'll be telling you about those dates at the end of tonight's event. But what we want to do is get right into it. So we're going to start with opening statements before we move into questions. They'll get a minute for their opening statements. They'll get 2 minutes to answer the questions in a rotational format. And then we'll wrap up the evening with closing statements, which will also be 2 minutes, so they can touch on whatever they feel is relevant or revisit something or talk about something that we may not have talked about, but that probably will be the least likely option because we've got so many questions about so many aspects of education that I think it should be a good and informative evening. So let's just move right into opening statements. We're going to start, again, each will get 1 minute, and we're going to go in alphabetical order for this, and then in a rotational order determined by coin toss for the questions. So let's start off with Brock.
Well, before I begin, I'd like to make sure I take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I know that there's you have a lot of obligations, and coming out tonight is very important to make sure that you remain informed about making the appropriate vote. I'd also like to make sure I thank Lake County News and Elizabeth, your involvement in coordinating this and putting this together, as well as the Bar Association and the Economic Development Corporation. My name is Brock Falkenberg. I am the Lake County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm running for re-election so that we can continue serving the children, the teachers, and the schools of Lake County. I have 26 years of experience in education, serving as a teacher, a coach, athletic director, and an administrator. My family and I moved to Lake County almost 20 years ago when I took a job as an assistant principal, my first administrative job at Lower Lake High School. My boys, I have 3 boys at this point, who completed their public education, or completed their entire education in Lake County's public school system. 2 of them are off in college now. They're twins. One's at Cal Berkeley, the other is at Cal Poly Pomona, and my wife is a teacher at Mountain Vista Middle School. Additionally, I have 21 years of service in the military, combined between reserve and active time.
Thank you. Thank you. Pat?
I too would like to thank you, Elizabeth, for taking the time to set up this forum and to thank everybody that is present tonight. I have 38 years of experience in education. My name is Patrick Iacino, and I've spent numerous years in a variety of positions in education, from a teacher, coach, every aspect of administration that you can think of, from a dean of students to a vice principal to an assistant principal to a principal, and to my last 11 years as a superintendent principal of Upper Lake School District. My very last year, my 11th year, we were a unified district. We were able to do that, and I was superintendent of the unified district. I too, my entire family is in education. All 3 of my children are teachers, and my wife works in food services. And I hope that on June 5th, you really encourage people to come out, be involved, and to vote in this election. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to get into the questions. The coin toss, Brock won it, so he deferred. He elected to let Pat go first, so we'll just rotate back and forth in that order. So let's get right into it. First question, and again, you each get 2 minutes, and if at any time you need me to repeat a question, don't hesitate to ask. So first question, It's no longer a given that a person will spend their entire working life in any one career. Many people often find themselves going back to school to switch careers or to enhance their current livelihood and earning potential. With what adult educational programs do you want to see the Lake County Office of Education implement in order to benefit our local workforce?
For those of us that have children that graduated from college and they are entering their third and fourth jobs, it's very, very critical to really provide students options in high school. High schools have been driven for years on what the college system would like. Most of our students in our system today are taking care of units that are required by the UC and Cal State system. About 85% of our kids don't go on to a four-year college out of high school, yet they're required to take all of those requirements by those universities in order to graduate from high school. Adult education and career education, vocational education, are critical for our kids and the adults of Lake County. We live in one of the poorest counties in the state. We have one of the highest unemployment rates, and the reason we do is we do a very poor job in the educational realm post high school. We prepare kids for college. Please don't think there's a saying out there about career tech ed and getting kids ready for careers and getting kids ready for college. Majority of high schools prepare kids for college. In Upper Lake, I decided that when 85% of my students weren't four-year college bound, that we really took a look at vocational programs and expanding those into adult programs. Adult education in this county is lacking. We need to bring programs, vocational programs back. Not all of our districts have adult education, and the ones that do predominantly offer a high school diploma track as opposed to a career track. So I would really emphasize a variety of vocational skills for adults and for our students, and give them options out of high school so that if they choose that they would go into college later, at least they're employable.
Thank you. Brock.
Well, I really like the flavor of this question because it really addresses that concept or that concern of being a lifelong learner. The statement is absolutely correct that we oftentimes find ourselves, or individuals find themselves, in a situation where they do not make one career choice and spend the next 30 or 40 years in that particular career. And even if they do make that choice, they have to continue to learn and grow and expand. So, as Pat was saying, certainly we have this obligation within our schools to assure that kids have options when they graduate high school. We call that career and college readiness, or I get in trouble because I think the actual technical term is college and career readiness. It is me that makes the emphasis on that career piece by putting it first. The question has to do more with adult funding and adult education. Currently, the County Office of Education has expanded our adult learning options from a standard entry-level medical pathway for medical assistants, phlebotomists, and CNAs, and we're looking at growing that into supporting some construction and driving and some other areas of growth. We don't have the way that adult ed funding works these days is that the adult ed funding now goes through the community college system. And the important role for the County Superintendent of Schools and the County Office of Education is really to make sure that we are enhancing and developing our partnerships with the community college system. As you're aware, Lake County is split into 2 community college districts, and therefore that requires double the amount of work in order to make that partnership work. We have the obligation of supporting and partnering with 2 community college districts and generating those resources and funding to support career technical education on both the south side of the county and the north side of the county, utilizing 2 different streams of revenue and expectations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next question, and we'll start with Brock. The Lake County Office of Education is a big organization. The state controller's website that tracks public agencies reported that it has more than 400 employees, and you can correct that number if that's wrong, making it one of Lake County's largest employers. Even so, a lot of people don't really know what the office does or what its key mission is. So please, both of you, share with us what you believe LCOE's role is in the Lake County community and what you would do as superintendent to improve and expand its operations. And we start with Brock.
Well, I'm interested in finding out a little more information about that 400 number. We have 124 FTE, full-time equivalent employees. So I believe that 400 number may not be reflective of the true position. However, as a unit, as an entity, all of our school districts put together may be the largest employer in the county. The role of the county superintendent and the role of the County Board of Education are defined in Education Code. The role of the county superintendent is primarily an oversight role, where oversight of budgets, oversight of accessibility to instructional materials, oversight of, on a little blank here, oversight of the local control accountability plan are the primary areas of focus for the county superintendent. The County Board of Education operates the student programs for the County Office of Education, as well as they're the owner of property and an appellate body for any issues that come up in the district. However, I believe the most important role for the County Office of Education isn't in one of those legislative requirements. It is to support our school districts when it comes to engaging students and focusing on student achievement. And over the last 3 years, I have made sure my budgets have focused on growing that aspect of our support network and changing some of the oversight responsibilities to more of a support role, in my opinion, to ask the question of what are we trying to do with our overall student outcomes and how can we as a county office partner with you in meeting those outcomes.
Thank you. Pat?
The role of the County Office of Education is simply to be a service organization. You have service organizations in Lake County that many of you are probably even a part of. Could be Kiwanis, could be Rotary, could be PTOs at schools. And those organizations simply provide service. Sometimes county offices get wrapped up in going far beyond that service organization. And as Brock said, county offices predominantly approve a district's budget. They also approve our LCAP. And there's a few other items that they take care of under legislative law. Outside of that, truly they should be asking districts, what is it that they need? How can we support you? What are the programs that your students want in order to be successful? And my job would be to meet with each individual district and sit down and have a conversation, not only with the superintendent of that district, but the principals of the school sites, the staff, the community, the parents, and not a bit least, the students. Students will tell you what they want and what they need in order for them to be successful. So I think it's critical that the county office get out into the school districts and do more than just approve a budget or approve an LCAP. I think it's critical that we really spend time on those campuses and really get to know the needs of each individual district in this county, all 6 of them.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Pat. What are some innovative programs you have implemented during your tenure as an administrator? And what have been the positive and or the negative impacts of those programs?
I'd have to start back when I was in the Antelope Valley High School District. I spent 21 years in Lancaster, Palmdale, High Desert, and was really, I had a tremendous opportunity that changed my life, which I had an opportunity to spend 4 years at the continuation schools. 1,800 students, the largest continuation school in California. There we implemented a variety of career tech ed programs. They weren't called that back then, but that's basically what they were, from auto shop to journalism to art. So those were programs that we implemented for the most at-risk youth. From there I went to Highland High School, and we had a international baccalaureate, which I would love to see county-wide. Our Acadeca team in Upper Lake does pretty well. I think that the other programs at Highland, we had a business academy, an ROTC, and a law and government academy. ROTC would be one of those other programs I think would do us well countywide. When I got to Upper Lake, there was a challenge. Small rural district, about 300 students, and we created we have more programs in Upper Lake than most of the districts across this county. We have mock trial, we have Acadeca, we have robotics, we have, when I left, we had 6 or 7 community college courses that were taught on campus. And it was just really a tribute to the staff of that high school that was willing to go above and beyond just the academic day. And those programs are still there. We brought back welding into the ag program, and of the 300 students on campus, 162 of them were in FFA. So agriculture was well and alive in Upper Lake, and those are programs that I think benefited many, many students.
Thank you. Brock.
Well, there are quite a few programs that we have implemented, I have been involved in implementing at the County Office of Education over the last 4 or so years. One of the ones that I am most proud of is what we are calling Lake County Teach. And we have implemented our first cohort of teachers this last January. This program is really an investment in our local workforce to assure that we have qualified, ready teaching candidates to fill our classrooms. Currently, we have about 20% of our teachers countywide, 10% of our teachers countywide who are operating on a permit. This is our strategy to help make sure that those teachers are ready to move forward with a credentialed position. We have reimagined the HERO project into Bloom, and this is really a program that's focused on parents supporting our students when it comes to kindergarten academic readiness. We are, at this point, giving out over 24,000 books a year through the through the Imagination Library to over 2,000 youth, 2,000 0 to 5-year-old youth in support of this effort. I'm very proud of our professional learning networks, which are supporting school districts when it comes to student engagement and achievement. I'm particularly proud of the fact that we are able to implement a problems of practice model for all of the school districts in Lake County so that they can focus their resources and leverage their resources in support of common student engagement and student achievement issues. I'm proud of the Tribal Youth Task Force, which we've started this year with the goal of graduating our tribal youth at the same rate as the rest of our student population within the next 6 years. I'm proud of our PBIS program, Positive Behavior Interventions and Support, which is intended to reduce the number of suspensions, and I think statistics have shown that, eliminate bullying, and improve attendance. And lastly, I'm proud of Operation Recognition, which is a way of recognizing our veterans who had to leave school in order to serve our country by awarding them a high school diploma.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Brock. So let's talk about private schools and school vouchers. A report from the California Department of Education shows that from 1996 to 2015, the number of private school enrollments has been on a gradual decline as opposed to the more flat growth patterns seen in public schools. In the 2015-16 school year, private school enrollments in California were just about, private school student enrollments in California were just over 500,000 students, or about 7.4% of total enrollments. Nevertheless, we've heard a lot about school vouchers in public school and private schools from state and national leaders who support families' rights to choose alternative educational options for their children. So, do you support school vouchers, and what, if any, concerns do you have about private schools? Do you think they're being held to high enough educational standards? And we start with Brock.
Well, just to be clear, I do not support the concept of school vouchers. Public education is really a great equalizer. It is the way that we are educating each and all of our youth to meet a certain level of expectation, to make sure that they are career and college ready. And as such, I believe our tax dollars should be devoted to support public education. In terms of quality for private education, I believe that each parent has the right to determine what is the most appropriate quality that they need, and can make a choice with their feet as to whether they want to enroll or disenroll their student from a private educational option.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat.
Being a product of the private school system myself, I'm an advocate for any educational system. I think the problem that we get ourselves into, no matter what institution, public, private, voucher, charter, homeschool, independent study, to say that any of them are any better than the other, I think is just the wrong road to go down. I'm an advocate for every system of education that a student wants to be involved in. There are a couple people sitting in the audience that I had an opportunity, their children were in private schools, and they couldn't take a class at the private school because they simply did not offer it. We offered it at Upper Lake High School, and I allowed that student to come to our school and to take that course with our students. That's what education is about. It's providing options, and you as parents, guardians, grandparents should be given every right to bring your student to any school that is being offered, not just the public educational system. The reality is the public education system is the largest system in the nation. It's not going anywhere. It costs money to run them, and we, as far as I'm concerned, we do a pretty darn good job when it comes to educating youth and preparing them for either college and or for careers. We have educated millions and millions of students over the years, and they've done pretty well, I would say. So I'm an advocate for any institution that's willing to educate a student.
Thank you. Next question, and we start with Pat. With the growing number of special needs children in the county, how can LCOE support the districts in attracting qualified teachers and aides, especially for the elementary school ages when early intervention is so crucial?
I had the opportunity early this morning to spend about 45 minutes on the phone with a woman that has those concerns, our special needs students. And they should have those concerns. The County Office of Education needs to extend its arms around districts in support of special needs students. This county is small, and you have 6 districts, and you may not have the ability to offer every program on every campus. But it behooves the County Office of Education to not drop that dime on a district and say, your student, you transport them, you figure out how to get them there, you figure out what to do with them. That's the wrong message. Our message needs to be, how can I help you? And let's take a look at what we can do. When it comes to attracting not only special needs teachers, but just teachers in general, Lake County is going to struggle simply because of the pay scales. And it's difficult. And we need to come up with ways to go beyond just the pay warrants that we pay teachers, paraeducators, and even our classified staff. We've got to come up with some creative ways to do other things to entice people to come to Lake County and stay in Lake County and teach and live in Lake County forever. And that's part of the role of the County Office of Education, not just the district's role, not just for them to go to a job fair. We need to be seeking out job fairs ourselves as a county office, attending them ourselves, or sending people to support our districts when they attend them.
Thank you. Brock.
Well, I appreciate this question. And one of the things that we are currently engaged in at the County Office of Education is that we are the fiscal oversight or the fiscal administrator for what is called the SELPA, the Special Education Local Planning Area. The SELPA is the organization that makes the determination of how special education is offered throughout the county. And the SELPA is made up of a board that consists of all of the superintendents in the county. One of the concerns that has come out recently is our distribution model, is our model for providing service for special education meeting the current need. We have a meeting scheduled here in May to begin that strategic planning process to look at how we are providing service to our special education with the intended outcome of looking at realignment of special education throughout the county. In terms of supporting teachers and recruitment of teachers, as I mentioned, one of the things that I am most proud of is Lake County Teach Lake County, I'm sorry. And Teach Lake County, our first cohort of students, which began in January, is specifically focused on our special education teachers, our teachers for the mild, moderate special education credential. We have a cohort of about 15 teachers that will become available to support that special education vacancies that are occurring. And we are currently out working with districts to place those teachers so they will be interns in the classroom next year. We plan on growing that program so that we can address elementary teachers and secondary teachers with a second, third, and fourth cohort of teachers next January. We absolutely do need to look at what we are paying our teachers, but in addition to that, one of the key aspects of supporting teachers is making sure that we have a good fit within our county. Lake County doesn't always meet the needs of teachers, and certainly teachers sometimes struggle to fit into Lake County. So we need to support them as they really matriculate into the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Brock. Our two local community colleges, Mendocino and Woodland, have become increasingly important partners with high schools in making a wide range of classes available to high school students. This raises the issue of articulation, which refers to how curriculum can be linked between different educational organizations. As county superintendent, what would your plan be to ensure that Lake County's high school students can apply their coursework to community colleges and in turn can transfer to universities in the most seamless way possible in order to save both time and money?
Can you read that one more time?
Sure.
I apologize.
So the two community colleges have become increasingly important partners with the local high schools in making a wide range of classes available to high school students, which raises the issue of articulation. As county superintendent, what would your plan be to ensure that Lake County's high school students can apply their coursework to community colleges and in turn can transfer to universities in the most seamless way possible in order to save both time and money?
In terms of articulation with our local community colleges, we have had a plan in place for the last 4 years. We have developed an educational partnership, and the focus of our educational partnership is truly to support those transitions from school to school. So whether that's pre-K to K, whether that's elementary school to middle school, whether that's middle school to high school, or whether that's high school onto our community colleges. Our greatest focus over the last 4 years, because of the willingness to support dual enrollment and articulation, has been that articulation piece or that transition piece from high school to community college. We meet monthly specifically to talk about and to support schools and districts in how to better achieve that articulation or that transition model. Additionally, the County Office of Education meets with community college deans or directors on a quarterly basis with a focus on how we are approaching adult education and how to best support those adult education options that are available within the county to make sure that we are not overlapping or saturating the market in terms of availability of courses. The third way that we are engaged in this conversation is that I or my staff sit on the adult ed block grant committees, which are engaged in determining how resources are distributed throughout the community college district to support that adult ed piece, that community college piece of adult education that they are responsible for. Thanks.
Thank you. Pat?
The whole key in that question, Elizabeth, is simply articulation. And we need to do a much better job in the area of articulation with all of our districts and the community colleges. We need to, in Upper Lake, for example, we struggled in that area for a number of years. It was difficult, and the reason it was difficult was because of the location of Upper Lake. And in order for them to go to Mendocino, they had to go all the way to Ukiah. Most of our students don't own a car. So it was also difficult for them to even go to the satellite campus in Lakeport. So it behooved us to bring the community college to us. So what I was able to develop with the help of a number of staff members was we took our Spanish course and offered it after school. And we have more students taking Spanish after school, earning college credit through that program. All of our 9th graders were required to take a 1-unit college course. Our mock trial, which finishes up competing in February, we then flipped them over and they took the Administrative Justice course with the college, and those students that were in that course were able to earn college credit. Art was another program that we offered after school. So it's at times not just what's going on between the school and the college. You have to break down the walls sometimes and get the college to come to you. And one of the ways that we're missing the boat is we live in the most technological society ever. And we should be doing many, many, many online courses with our students, taking community college courses as well as 4-year college courses through the online systems that are available to them.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Pat. This is another sort of a long lead-in. The ability to read is a fundamental skill in modern society. It's the foundation of lifelong learning and is liberating. Yet for people with dyslexia, this ability can be frustratingly out of reach. Dyslexia is common, affecting 20% of the population, and with 39% of California students reading below basic levels and only 31% reading at or above proficient, early detection and remediation are critical. In August of 2017, the California Department of Education released its California Dyslexia Guidelines, which are meant to assist regular education teachers, special education teachers, and parents in identifying, assessing, and supporting students with dyslexia. So here's the question. How do you plan to implement the California Dyslexia Guidelines within Lake County schools?
To be honest with you, I haven't read them, but I'm very aware of students who struggle with reading, whether it be dyslexia or any other form of a special need that they deal with. And I may say this, I don't think she'll get mad at me, but I have a younger daughter who struggled with reading. She had an eye stigma and was in the private school system for up till 5th grade, 6th grade. And we really had to make a decision to bring her into the public system where there are many, many opportunities to support those students. It's critical from a reading perspective that we truly sit down and take a look at what we're doing during the daily routine for students. A lot of times we take these specific programs for kids and we push them after school. The worst time of the day to teach a kid reading, math, science, or any of the 4 core is in 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours after school. We need to figure out ways to incorporate that throughout the course of the regular day. And also extend it. If you're going to extend it after school, extend it into the household. Don't extend it just on the campus. Bring it to the home. And sometimes we'll have to take some time to prepare family members, adult family members in the home on how to service their students while at home and teach them ways that they can do that. So it goes just beyond the regular school day, but we really need to support parents and guardians at home with those types of programs as well.
Thank you. Brock?
This is a conversation we've been having in my office for the last several months as to how do we do a better job of supporting the students with dyslexia and implementing the dyslexia guidelines. It has been something we have been unsuccessful with at this point in time. We have had the conversation with both our Ed Services staff as well as the SELPA administrative staff. So this is something that I see as being critical to bring up in our strategic planning sessions with SELPA later this month in May. It is the primary way that we need to address dyslexia in the sense that should the county office be a leadership in that role? How can the county office be a leader in that role? And how do we support the needs of our children with dyslexia?
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Brock. What can be done to improve school safety? Do you support arming teachers, or are there other proactive policies that can be implemented?
I do not support the concept of arming teachers. I believe that teachers' primary role is to engage with students and to assist students with achievement. That requires developing a relationship. That requires focusing your time on providing education and supporting student growth. It doesn't allow you the time to train regularly on how to handle a firearm or how to implement escalation of force procedures. I do believe, however, that if a local board of education determines that an armed security guard is necessary on campus, that the current education code does allow them to engage with a school resource officer or to engage with a trained security staff member to provide that sort of a resource on campus. I believe that the best way to address safety on campus is to work on the concept of inclusion and to work on some of the mental health issues that impact not just our students, but our community as a whole, our society as a whole. The area of focus that we are currently engaged in is to better engage our Department of Behavioral Health in supporting schools, in supporting families, and in supporting students with addressing those issues that they are struggling with. Additionally, utilizing our PBIS model, we are working on ways to improve inclusion so that students aren't bullied, they aren't excluded, they aren't kept from engaging in those day-to-day activities that happen on the school site to really support students in being a part of the student community.
Thank you. Pat?
This topic is a topic that has been with us for a number of years. It is something that is not new. It has become new since the last school shooting in Parkland. Unfortunately, education typically is a reactive system instead of being proactive. And that's where we go wrong. The behavioral mental health issue is huge. And so we need to provide school districts with the ability to have support personnel on campuses in order to help students and to answer questions and deal with parents that might have concerns. Every district in this county has a plan to deal with active shooters. And plans sometimes are about as worthy of the paper that they're written on. There's no secret that the way that you deal with school violence is through educating students, educating parents, educating the community, working with behavioral health, but also having law enforcement presence on those campuses. I'm not an advocate for teachers carrying guns. It creates too many other possibilities that could happen. But a trained officer on every campus cuts down the time response time immediately. And that's what's needed on all 22 of the campuses in this county. How do you do it? Very difficult. It's going to cost a lot of money. But all I keep hearing is, well, we should find funding in order to do this because there isn't the amount of money in terms of any student's life. So it's critical that we get together with law enforcement and other agencies in order to provide that number one issue so that students can feel safe, and then we can attack the behavioral health issues and educating people and what we're trying to accomplish on each of our campuses.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Pat. So this follows on the school safety question. As an administrator, have you at any time had to interact with federal immigration officials? And what guidance have you given or would you give as County Superintendent of Schools in response to immigration agents or inquiries?
Thank God in 38 years I haven't had to deal with that. I hope nobody has to deal with that because it's a very difficult issue. I've always lived by the simple fact that students on our campuses that are there, that are enrolled, deserve to be educated. And we will deal with that as it comes. I think it's critical that the county sits down with county officials, with county legislators, with state legislators, to really sit down and develop some type of way in which we are going to deal with this. Because should it ever come, it will be interesting to see what type of backing we get from local legislators. What type of backing do we get from congressmen and from senators and from the governor? Education sometimes is out there on an island by itself. So you often hear it's your district, deal with it. And it's just not that simple, guys. We need the support from all agencies to whatever is going to be implemented. We do that in the best interest of our communities, and we do that in the best interest of our students and families.
Thank you. Brock?
I too have never had immigration approach me for information about a student or to seek out a student, and I appreciate that fact. I have, over the last 3 years, issued guidance to staff regarding immigration on campus. And that guidance was first and foremost that we will follow the law as the law applies. Secondly, that should an immigration officer approach any of them for student information, that they are to refer immigration to myself or to my Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services to work directly with the immigration officers in terms of any enforcement or seeking of any information. And what we will do is specifically refer this to our attorney to make sure that they have the proper documentation to seek out that information. The additional guidance I have given to staff is to make sure that we have gone through all of our student records to eliminate any indication as to whether they are here illegally or not, so that we are not maintaining such things as social security numbers, etc., that immigration may then utilize to determine whether they are here, any students are here illegally or not. Our goal is to support each and every student in this county, regardless of their immigration status.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Brock. The Lake County Office of Education operates the Career Technical Education Program, which was known to many people for decades as ROP. Some county educators have criticized LCOE for how it has run the program, faulting it for lack of support and funding. How well do you think the program currently is being operated, and what are its weaknesses, and how would you address them in order to improve the program?
I think I need to go back and clarify a few items on this particular issue. ROP funding ceased to be distributed to county offices of education effective about 5 years ago. So with the implementation of the local control funding formula, there was no ROP resources at that point in time, and ROP no longer exists as a program within the County Office of Education. My predecessor at that point in time eliminated all career tech ed funding from the County Office of Education. Upon my taking office, I worked with school districts to implement a transition plan because ROP dollars were transferred from county offices of education specifically to school districts in support of the career and college readiness or high school incentive monies that are available and each district receives. So those ROP dollars are now going directly to school districts for their use as they see most fit. In order to implement that change, over the last 3 years, the County Office of Education from our general fund has distributed about $1 million to school districts in support of career technical education as we see that transition happen.
Thank you. Pat?
I would say that funding for vocational ed, career tech ed, ROP is not enough. The county offices, though it had been cut, the onus really was then set upon districts to fend their ways and figure it out and try to maintain their programs. Very difficult call to make in school districts as a superintendent. You know, do keep a music program or an art program or a welding program or a wood shop. Those are all critical programs, and we were able at Upper Lake to keep them viable. I think so many districts today are being told, well, you can always just apply for a grant, use grants. Grant money's out there. Get a grant writer. Have them write grants and everything will be wonderful. What happens with grant money is at some point in time it runs out. And now you have to deal with this program that you started, although it would be a wonderful program, now may have to be cut. People may have to lose their jobs. Students that have spent 3 and 4 years in programs, they no longer have that support. So it's critical to really sit down with countywide business organizations and to develop a plan that you can implement in districts in support of students because the funding streams change so drastically. And it's critical. Again, as I stated earlier, what was good for Upper Lake in our programs may not be similar to what Konocti needed, or may not be similar to another district. And sometimes your real small districts like Upper Lake kind of get put on the side, and a district as large as Konocti ends up with a couple of more programs and additional funding simply because of size. And I think you need to be very, very careful with that. You have to work specifically with districts to meet their needs because they're very unique.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Pat. Getting children ready to start school is critical to their success. As Lake County Superintendent of Schools, how would LCOE support the county's children in the birth to age 5 group before they attend school?
And come back to those programs all the time. You know, it's at some point in time, I think it's one of those situations where you really need to sit down with the parents that have children or that are expecting to have children, and to really sit down with them and the districts in which they reside to determine what's the best path to take within that district. I think we leave the parent component out of it way too much. So sometimes we'll have this program set up, we'll have books, we'll have these reading programs, and we'll have a number of things, but we forget to educate the parent, to educate the guardian on the best way to support them and what they need to provide support for their child prior to entering our TK and our preschools, so that they have a chance right out of the chute in order to be able to perform as their cohorts might be performing, who have come from an environment that might be more supportive, might be in a situation where they can afford certain things that not all families can afford. So it behooves districts and the county office to really sit down and to see what those needs are individually within those families and to create some type of program in order to support them.
Thank you. Brock?
Well, I really see this outreach to our 0 to 5 population, our preschool population, as being a key element of focus for the County Superintendent of Schools and the County Office of Education. As we look at the structure of preschool and childcare throughout Lake County, and really throughout the state, there's private options, there's public options, there's nonprofit options, and there's different funding sources and different structures and different requirements for each of those options. The Lake County Office of Education happens to operate the state preschool within Lake County. And so about 60% of our preschool students are going through a County Office of Education program. But that's the total number of kids that are accessing preschool in Lake County is about 50%. So we have a great deal of room for growth in this particular area. The County Office of Education has been a lead player with what we call Bloom. Bloom is a social media project intended to support parents as the first teachers of our 0 to 5 population, with a specific focus on reinforcing, I think, California's First Fives initiative of, read, talk, or talk, read, sing. We have been engaged and written a grant to support our preschool programs, whether they're private, whether they're public, or whether they're nonprofit, in terms of meeting a set of indicators in terms of quality, and to support them to make sure that they have the professional development available to meet those quality indicators. Through the Child Care Planning Council, we have been engaged in developing a structure to bridge the gap between our preschool and our kindergarten programs, and really to address that kindergarten readiness piece. Additionally, I've been engaged with Assemblymember Aguilar Curry to increase child care slots in Lake County and ultimately California, as well as advocating with our federal Congress members to support additional Head Start seats in California, which will translate to more Head Start seats here in California, or here in Lake County. Additionally, I'm engaged in efforts to address preschool for all and advocate for preschool for all outside of the Prop 98 funding model. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Brock. Do you feel that the current Special Education Local Plan Area, or SELPA, staffing is sufficient to support districts and in turn the students they are responsible for?
You know, what I am going to say is that rather than say I believe or disbelieve that we have the appropriate number of staffing, that we are in the process of engaging in a strategic plan where we are really going to look at how we are providing services to our special education students. And that could include the administrative staffing of the SELPA. I, for one, believe that the County Office of Education could play a greater role in supporting districts with regionalized programs to support those special education population of students. However, I also believe that as a SELPA, I have to respect the needs and wishes and desires of the entire board, that is all of the district superintendents, on how they as a group wish to address special education within this county.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Based on my interaction over the last 11 years with SELPA and being one of the superintendents that oversaw that, at times I think it's way too large. And at other times, I think it's just simply based on what people are doing from within that SELPA and how they're supporting districts and what is it that they want to accomplish. Was never asked what I was trying to accomplish as a superintendent within my special ed division within my own district. So it behooves the county office to really sit down and, when you are going to develop the strategic plan, to really be strategic, to sit down and have a conversation beyond superintendents. Have that conversation that I had this morning with a parent who has concerns, who feels like no one is listening, because that's the critical part in terms of providing appropriate special education programs for our special needs students. So it may not be that a division is overstaffed or understaffed, but it's actually what it is that you have them doing within that course of their job description and how they're supporting districts from the seat within the county office.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Pat. Do you have any specific ideas on how to save money in the county office so more money goes to the schools?
I know how we do it at districts. Unfortunately, sometimes you got to put on the hat, and sometimes you got to turn it backwards. And in the 11 years, in order to stay fiscally sound, I went from 21 teachers to 13, but never lost a program. And that is simply an accolade to the staff at that school. I have a very interesting way that I would bring money to the county, and part of it has to do with me. I'm fortunate enough that I'm retired. So under STIR's guidelines, I'll ask for the maximum of $43,755 a year. That saves the county office $100,000 per year for 4 years. And maybe we use that money as incentives in supporting students and looking at specific programs. I've negotiated my contract for 11 years and never had a problem doing that. So I sit in a different seat than Brock does. So there's different things that I can do that he may or may not be able to do. But it's really critical that we come up with ways to look at that. You have to look at your staffing within the county office. You have to look at your programs. Do you have a program that's not meeting the needs of districts? Because if you have a program that doesn't meet their needs, then you have to make a decision on whether or not to maintain that program. If you have a department that seems to be excessively large, what is it that they're doing and why is it so large? And if it needs to be that large, oh, great. But if it doesn't, sometimes you have to make adjustments within the County Office of Education to free up funding to get that money back into school districts.
Thank you. Brock?
The majority of County Office of Education funds truly come in categorical or with strings. So about 60% of the funding for the County Office of Education is grant funded or specifically categorical funded. And a good portion of our general fund monies, we make a practice of distributing money out to the program that generated it, as opposed to utilizing it in other capacities. So when you talk about the total budget of the County Office of Education, there's only a limited portion of it that can truly be considered discretionary. Of that discretionary amount, over the last 5-6 years, the role and responsibility of the County Office of Education has really been changing, and that is a result of the implementation of the local control funding formula as well as the associated local control accountability plan. The responsibility of oversight of those two areas has put a great deal of strain and pressure on the County Office of Education in support of developing ed services departments that are flexible enough and have the ability to develop the capacity within the county, within the region, and within the school districts to support student achievement and student engagement, and to really utilize that department as a primary means of intervention from a state terminology in terms of providing what's called differentiated assistance to our districts as we address the need to improve student outcomes. So certainly, while someone may disagree with how resources are being allocated within the County Office of Education, that's always a prerogative. The goal that I have set is to support our districts in terms of enhancing student outcomes and student engagement by primarily focusing any additional resources we can in support of school districts through our Ed Services Department.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Brock. How can LCOE support districts in training aides to help prepare them for the challenge of working with special needs children? Additionally, how can districts be supported in retaining aides in order to diminish the high turnover?
Can you read that again?
Sure.
I missed that last part.
How can LCOE support districts in training aides to help prepare them for the challenge of working with special needs children? That's the first part. Second part, how can districts be supported in retaining aides in order to diminish the high turnover?
Well, I think that's two parts of the same question, really. I think that the retention piece really comes down to a training piece and making sure that individuals that are in that paraprofessional position are appropriately trained and understand their role and responsibility and how to impact student outcomes. There have been this last year at least one training specifically focused on our paraprofessionals. However, that was not a very well attended training. So I think in terms of going back, we need to take a look at the timing of that training and how individuals are being prepared to access that, how our paraprofessionals are prepared to access that, and seeing if there are ways that we can better support districts in terms of providing access or paying for additional time for those paras to attend such a training.
Thank you. Pat?
Training is critical for paraeducators. I think the frustration that we have in most of our districts is the timing of the paraeducator training. Districts struggle to find subs. And so if you have a training during the day and you have a couple of one-on-one aides in your school, it's difficult for that aide to leave that child because they're the one-on-one aide. So where do you find a sub even to take the place of that one-on-one aide for the day, which can really create some other issues at the school sites. So it's critical that the county office, again, meet with districts and find out their need for training of the special ed paraeducators, the one-on-one aides, and any classified position, whether it be food services, your Title I aides, your maintenance and operation people. And then you have organizations throughout this state. I'm a member of the Small School Districts Association, a lobbying group in this state, an organization that is solely responsible and keeps an eye out for small school districts. You have the California School Boards Association. You have ACSA, the Association of California School Administrators. You have California Legal Services. These are all organizations that provide trainings in a variety of capacities. The critical part is trying as a county office to make sure that the training has good timing. And so the only way to do that is to have the conversation with the people that you're training and say, what is the best time? And so if it costs a little bit more money for the district to put it on because it might be a Saturday, the county office has to step up and play a role in that in order to offset the funding that may hinder the district from having the training because they just can't meet the funding. So it's critical that you find ways and options to do that.
Thank you. Any members of the audience have any questions you'd like to submit, please pass them up. We're going to start winding up. We've got a few more questions, but we're going to welcome some more. So if you've heard something you'd like to follow up on, don't hesitate to hand a card to Andy. Okay, so the next question, we'll start with Pat. A recent study by UC Berkeley and Northeastern Illinois University concluded that poor grades are tied to class times that don't match students' biological clocks. So the suggestion has been made that it may be time to tailor students' class schedules to their natural biological rhythms. What are your thoughts on making a change to the traditional school schedule? And as having been one of those kids, I think an afternoon schedule is wonderful. So I'm for that. But I would love to hear, this is a recent study, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it. Start with Pat.
That's always been my greatest argument with the state of California. We force students to take a variety of courses to meet the requirement of the UC and Cal State systems. And then they go ahead and have one of those studies and really tell us how we should be more like them. It's unbelievable. There's really one way to meet every student's need when it comes to a variety of start and end times. And I know I have some teacher friends out in the audience that probably aren't going to like this, but you guys know me. That's the beauty of online education. My God, what we have available to students. I was able to take one of my teachers in my district and make them the online person to go to. So students that may have a question in the middle of the night could reach this individual for help. You need to tailor not time slots in a school day at a high school, because in a high school you need to meet 64,800 minutes of instruction under the state of California, and we go to school from 8 to 3 because that's the way we've always done it, and we go 180 days. We have done that for year after year after year after year. Didn't matter what our students needed, that's how we always did it. Well, it's time to stop doing it that way and to look at other options for students. And I would say there's an option, and I know I'm running out of time, so if you want to talk about it afterwards, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. But it's critical that we use what we have available to us in the world of technology to support our students and what they want to be able to accomplish.
Thank you. Brock?
You know, again, I think this is a local decision that needs to be addressed at the local level. The state was engaged last year and engaged again this year in mandating school start times and pushing them back as a result of some of these beliefs and studies. However, each community, each school district has unique situations that I think they can address locally in terms of addressing and starting or setting their own school start times. It does not have to be at 8 o'clock. Local schools could start at 9 o'clock, and as a matter of fact, we saw that option implemented in Middletown immediately following the Valley Fire. And it was not because of students, it was because of transportation issues and having to transport students from around the lake to get them to school at a time where they were still able to meet, unfortunately, their 64,800 minutes and all of the regulations associated with that. I think there was some initial pushback from teachers who ultimately in time, I think, enjoyed that concept of starting a little bit later and therefore going later into the day. Again, this is a local decision. Local boards, local superintendents are in the best, and local principals are in the best position to determine their school start times. So I will leave it for a local decision.
Thank you. Okay, next question, we'll start with Brock. In your experience, what specific professional attributes do you possess which can demonstrably improve educational opportunities for Lake County students?
Can you read that one more time?
Sure. In your experience, what specific professional attributes do you possess which can demonstrably improve educational opportunities for Lake County students?
Well, first of all, I am the county superintendent of schools, so I have the experience for the last 3.5+ years serving in that capacity. I know that it is a little bit different than being a district superintendent, and have really taken that on as a learning opportunity. Some of the specific professional attributes that I possess is that I have been involved in education at multiple different levels, including preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, and some recent engagement at the community college level. There is a small role that a county superintendent plays for community college governance. I have completed the school business official training, although I am not certified as a school business official because I've never officially served in that capacity. I sit on multiple different statewide agencies over the years, including the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, so have quite a bit of understanding of how to work with districts as they reach that point where they are approaching bankruptcy, as well as curriculum instruction committees, and I sat on an advisory committee for the Public Schools Accountability Act when we were looking at a different form of accountability prior to the dashboard. Additionally, I've sat on the statewide SAR board, the School Attendance Review Board. So I have developed quite a bit of expertise in those particular areas. But I would say the professional ability or characteristic that I possess the most is my ability to work with and collaborate with others. The County Superintendent of Schools really doesn't have a lot of direct authority to direct a school district to do a particular thing. But what we do have is the ability to partner both within the county, locally, regionally, and statewide to leverage and develop resources that we can bring back to Lake County in support of student engagement and student achievement.
Thank you. Pat?
In my 38 years of education, I've had the opportunity to serve students in a variety of capacities, from a teacher to a coach to every aspect of administration, to not only at the site level but at the district level, and spending 11 years as a district superintendent. That's really where you learn your craft, because you begin to realize from that seat you have the ability to make major decisions, working with a board, usually 5 people, sometimes 3, to make some of the most incredible decisions that affect students in a variety of ways. I don't see that being any different should I be nominated to serve you as county superintendent. I still think my strongest attribute is being an advocate for students in this county. Being an advocate for programs and options in educational settings, not only in the public sector, but in the private sector, the voucher sector, the charter, the independent studies, because our kids come in all shapes and sizes. And it behooves us to make sure that we support districts to give them the ability to provide programs to students at every walk of life. And from the superintendent's seat, you have the most impact from that seat and being able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I thought I'd end the questions with a little bit of a curveball for you two. You've both been such gentlemen, and there's been a lot of great stuff that we've covered, but I just want to kind of give you each, we're going to start off with Pat. I want to give you each the opportunity to ask each other a question.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Hey, I had to do all the hard work tonight with the questions. Now you have to do it. So just, it can be anything. I just like to give you the chance to ask the person you're running against a question about anything education related, or about the race, or his tie, anything.
I know, Brock, you've been an advocate over the years of career tech programs, and I think you know I have been as well. What do you do to make sure that every district has the opportunity, not just your largest districts and your most outspoken districts, but every district has an opportunity to enter into career tech ed programs, viable ones that will support businesses within this community to make sure they all get a piece of the pie?
Well, first of all, I'm going to go back historically. And when we did have ROP dollars, just to point out that those ROP dollars were not necessarily distributed based on the size of the district. Matter of fact, there was a point in time when Upper Lake High School District received about the same amount of money or a little bit more than Canocta Unified School District. And how it got to that point, I can't really defend. Because you do get to, no, it was before Wally. You do get to that point where you kind of look at what's the ADA and how do you distribute monies equitably. And equitably, that may not necessarily mean based on an ADA basis. So I have been involved over the last several years in terms of I've already addressed, freeing up $1 million from the County Office of Education General Fund to support career technical education as we transition into a fully funded local control accountability plan and local control funding formula model. I have also been engaged with Senator McGuire when he wrote the initial Career Tech Ed block grant, and am currently engaged in advocating for ongoing funding for that incentive grant. However, that is a grant-funded program, so in 3 years that has a tendency to sunset as well, and we'll be in the same boat. So the County Board of Education and myself have recently gotten behind the CSBA resolution to move state funding for education to one of the top 10 funded states in the nation. Currently, we're in the bottom 10 in terms of per pupil funding. And in order to sustain ongoing viable options for all of our youth in this county, we need to prioritize education and prioritize youth by funding schools appropriately.
Thank you. Okay, your turn.
Be nice.
So my question has to do, where I wrote one down here. In terms of community engagement, it is critical that the County Superintendent of Schools be engaged, not just at school level functions, but community functions as well, governmental functions as well. How are you engaged currently in terms of overall engagement in our community?
Well, I'd say if you're asking me, am I a Rotary member? No. Am I a Kiwanis member? No. You don't need to be a part of those organizations to be involved. I know I have a young lady sitting off here to my left who for 38 years supported me on times when I wouldn't get home for hours. Either it be coaching. I thought when I got into the world of administration that would change. That didn't. And I just think it's critical that you attend events as much as possible. Not to shake hands and make yourself known from a popularity perspective. It has nothing to do with that. You go to events to advocate for kids. You go to events to support kids, no matter what that event is. So if it's a 10K run, I'll prefer to walk it, but I would be there to show students, to show young adults that it's important to be involved. You don't have to belong to every service organization that's out there, but what you need to do is you need to be present, you need to be there for them, either it be a school event, a county event, local event, sometimes even state events. And I've been to more than my share.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into closing statements. This is a chance to go back, address something. Again, we've covered a lot of territory tonight, so feel free to basically talk about whatever you'd like and just sum up tonight's experience. You're going to get 2 minutes each. I know that's not a terribly long time, but you can at least kind of touch on the highlights. We're going to go in the reverse alphabetical order from when we started. So we will start the closing statements with Pat.
I would just like to again thank you, Elizabeth, for taking the time. To the members in the audience, thank you very, very much. I'm running basically on a 5-point platform. One is our schools need to be safe, clean, and secure for all students and for all staff members. Programs, options for all students. Students that are not only college bound, but students that are truly career bound, and what that means. It's critical that we improve the adult ed programs in this county to encourage students to see that if their mom and dad or their uncle or aunt or a relative has gone back and be able to become certified and employable means a lot to families here in Lake County. So it's critical that we take those programs and we really begin to offer a variety of programs across the county. Articulation with the community college. And what I mean by articulation is articulation on our campuses, not necessarily just on their campuses on their time, but on our campuses on our time. Because it's the only way a lot of our students can even begin to really see that they can accomplish taking college courses and actually completing them. And my last point is that the county office is simply, we talked about this and this was the question that Brock gave me. It's a service organization, one that I would be very happy to be a part of. That's one that I would actually join. It's critical that the county office provide every aspect of service to our districts and our students in Lake County. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock.
Well, as I stated in my opening statement, there are quite a few things that I'm very proud of. And again, I am proud to be the County Superintendent of Schools. And I believe that we have begun implementation of many critical programs. But I'm not done. Those programs are going to need continuous work and continuous improvement over the next 4 years. The Lake County Teach model is something that needs that continuous fostering and growth. This is an investment that we are making in our community, and it is one of my top priorities to assure that we have qualified, certificated teachers in all of our classrooms, not teachers that are just operating on a permit, but supporting those teachers as they move into that credentialed area. School safety is a top priority of mine, and as a result of the Valley Fire, it became apparent to me that we needed a more uniform, standardized approach to our school safety plans and our emergency planning. And so this year I have implemented a program, or not a program, a position that is focused primarily on school safety and improving that coordination between first responders and schools. But we need to continue that effort moving forward. The Tribal Youth Task Force is a key issue for me. We need to be graduating our tribal youth at the same rate as the rest of our student population. And career technical education remains a big concern of mine, and I will continue to advocate for career technical education and sustainable ongoing funding to support career technical education. Kindergarten readiness is something we're starting to see some data on, and our kindergarten teachers are rating kindergarten readiness at about 50% in this county. We need to grow that, and we are developing a plan, a structured plan to address kindergarten readiness. And lastly, the area that I anticipate focusing on is increasing our post-secondary matriculation rate. And by post-secondary, I don't just mean 4-year colleges. I mean 2-year colleges, I mean certificate programs, I mean vocational education. So those are my key areas of focus over the next 4 years. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, Pat, for your time and the ability to engage in this forum.
Thank you both. All right, well, that ends our forum for this evening. Thank you to Brock Falkenberg and Pat Iacino for a great event. Thank you for sharing your time with us here tonight. Thank you to the audience who gave us just a lot of great questions. So best of luck to both of you. And I want to thank our co-sponsors, the Lake County Bar Association and the Lake County Economic Development Corporation, for their continued support. We have some more forums coming up in the coming weeks. We have another one for the judicial candidates in Clear Lake on Wednesday evening at the Senior Center. We have another one for the District 3 candidates here on May 9th and on May 14th, again here for the District Attorney's candidates. So keep an eye out for future announcements on those. And this event will be online for you to watch again. And again, thank you both. And I'm Elizabeth Larson with Lake County News. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.